I don't think people actually hate working. I think people hate having no control over their own lives. And yes, it sounds a little bit dramatic, but think about it. You can be a fully grown adult, you can pay your own bills, have your own family, your own responsibilities, your own home, and your own life. But if you want to have, say, 5 days off, you often have to ask another adult for permission. You have to submit a holiday, then you have to wait for approval. And you also have to make sure nobody else has booked those exact dates off as you. And if they say no, then that's it. You just can't go. And I find that so strange. Not because I think nobody should have a job, not because I think you should quit tomorrow and become an entrepreneur, and definitely not because I think working a 9 to 5 somehow makes you less ambitious. I think as a society, we've completely normalized giving away an enormous amount of control over our time. And then we wonder why so many of us say that we hate working. Maybe they don't hate working. Maybe they hate the lack of autonomy that comes with it. Because people voluntarily work hard all the time. Someone could spend 10 hours renovating their house and feel so amazing afterwards. Someone can spend an entire day sewing a garment, learning a new skill, cooking, writing, training, working on their business, whatever it is. And they don't necessarily think, God, I hate working, because there's a difference. They chose it. They chose when to start, they chose what they were working towards, they understood why they're doing it. The work essentially belonged to them. And I think that's the part that we don't talk about enough. Maybe what exhausts us isn't effort, maybe it's being controlled. Even the basic structure of working is really strange when you really think about it. You wake up at a certain time, you commute somewhere just because somebody else decided that's where you need to be. You stay there until a particular hour, even if you've completed all the work that is needed to be. Eat when you are allowed to take a break. Plan your holidays around what's convenient for the company. Spend the best hours of your day working. And then you squeeze the rest of your life into your evenings and into your weekends. Your relationships, your health, your hobbies, your family, your creativity, your actual life. Everything gets fitted around work. And we've been taught that as completely normal. But why does it have to be? And this is where the conversation around working from home and working in the offices gets really interesting, because some employees aren't essentially saying, I don't want to work. They're saying, why does it matter where I do the work? If someone can produce the same results from working at home, why does their physical presence suddenly become so important? And obviously, there are so many reasons why offices are important and why they exist: collaboration, learning from other people, social interaction. Some jobs cannot be done remotely, and I understand that. I'm not pretending that every single person should work from their bedroom forever, but I think there's a difference between genuinely needing people together and wanting to see someone sitting at a desk just because it looks like productivity. I am not against offices, but I'm against confusing visibility with productivity because sometimes it starts to feel as if your employer isn't just buying your output, they're buying access of your time. And those are two very different things. We have all this technology, AI, automation, software, machines. Everything we have now is supposed to make us more efficient. Things that used to take us hours to do, we can do now in minutes. But whenever we become more productive, the reward rarely seems to be great. Now you can have some of your time back. It becomes great. Now work more. And I think that is such an interesting contradiction. What is the point of constantly making human beings more efficient if the end goal is just to make us produce more and more forever? Now, at what point does productivity make our lives better? Because surely technology was supposed to make life so much more easier, not just make us better workers. And before anyone says it, I know self employment isn't automatically freedom. Someone with their own business or someone that is freelance can work twice as much as somebody working a normal job. You could be a freelancer and stress every single Sunday whether you're going to get clients next month. You could be a content creator and technically have no boss, but still feel so controlled and limited by the algorithm. You can run a company and suddenly your customers, employees, investors, and bank become your new bosses. So I don't think the real divide is employment versus self employment. I think the real divide is autonomous versus controlled. How much control do you have over what you work on? Can you change the direction? What you've done enough of? Can you take time off without feeling terrified? Can you build your life solely based off of your work instead of constantly building your life around somebody else's schedule? Now, that to me is true freedom. And I think that's also why I never really understood the dream of simply not working. I don't want to sit around doing absolutely nothing every day. I want to work. I like having goals. I like making things. I like improving at something. I like the feeling of knowing that I am building towards something so much bigger. I want responsibility. I crave difficult things. I want to work ridiculously hard to and for the things that matter to me the most. I don't want my life to be dictated by something I didn't consciously choose. That just sounds awful. And I think there's a huge difference between those two things. I don't want freedom from responsibility. I want freedom for the things I choose, what I'm responsible for. And maybe that's why so many people fantasize about being rich, myself included, obviously. But I genuinely think that a massive part of appeal of money is time. It's Waking up knowing you don't have to be somewhere purely because otherwise you can't pay your rent or you can't pay your bills. It's being able to visit family, it's being able to say no. Money can buy options, and options give you control. So maybe when people say that they want to become financially free, what they're actually saying is, I want enough control over my own life that I'm no longer terrified of saying no. And I think that's a much more interesting version of success than just wanting to be rich. They might love finishing at 5 and not ever think about work again. They might love knowing how much money is coming through next month. They might value security more than flexibility, and that's completely fine. That person might feel freer than a person running a business who hasn't had a proper day off in 3 years. The point isn't that one lifestyle is superior. The point is, you actually choose. You shouldn't have to wake up at 40 and realize you've been following a structure that you've never questioned because everybody told you that's just what adulthood looks like. Maybe it's even being a freelancer. Maybe you want to work 6 months of the year and then travel the rest. Maybe you want something that nobody around you understands. Fine. But at least let it be yours. Because ultimately, I don't think the dream is to never work again. I think the dream is to own enough of your life that work becomes something you choose, something that supports your life rather than consuming it. Just imagine something you can be proud of rather than spending every Sunday night dreading it. So, no, maybe you don't hate work. Maybe you just hate the feeling like your time belongs to somebody else, or that your time is dictated by someone else. And if that is the case, maybe the question isn't, how do I avoid working? It's, how do I acquire a life where I have control over the work I do? Because your time is quite literally your whole life. And I think we should be way more careful who we give access to towards our time.